number 1, it says a number cube is rolled 24 times and lands on 2 4 times and on 6 3 times. We need to find the experimental probability of landing on 2. So it's experimental. So how many times did it actually land on 2?
4 times.
4 out of how many?
24.
Can that be reduced?
Yes.
By what?
1/6.
It can be reduced to 1/6. What do you divide both the top and the bottom by? 4. So then you get the reduced fraction of 1/6, which is the same as what?
1700.
Which is the same as?
17%.
We should have that one memorized. We have that one a lot, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay? Just because I don't have room, I'm going to go ahead and erase that answer. So please make sure you get it written down. It is unlikely. That's good. Okay, then it says on B, I'll do that one in red. It says find the experimental probability of not landing on 6. So what did you do for this one? Sarah? Okay, you took 24 minus 3 because we actually rolled 3 6 times. So what'd you get for that, Sarah? 21, and what'd you put as your denominator? Because that's how many total times we rolled the dice. Can that be reduced? Yeah?
Yeah.
Can be reduced by what?
7, 8.
We can reduce both the top and bottom by 3, so we would get 7 eighths, which is the same as 42 hundredths?
Yeah. 4200. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
What?
8800.
88 hundredths? I was going to say.
oh shoot, I had to take this map.
88 hundredths, which is the same as 88%.
I did.
If you don't have that, make sure you change it to that. Okay, does that one make sense? That is called the complementary, so it's the opposite of what actually happened. And that one is likely. Good. Okay, so then it says compare the experimental probability that you found in part A to its theoretical. In theory, how many times should you land on 2 on the dice?
4 times.
On the dice, you could land on 2 4 times?
1 time.
On a dice, how many options do you have that are 2? 1. Okay, because we're figuring out the theoretical. Out of how many total options do you have? 6. Okay, 1/6 is the same as 17 hundredths, which is the same as 17%. But it didn't ask me to find the theoretical. It asked me to compare the experimental and the theoretical. So this was my experimental. This was my theoretical. Would you say that experimental is greater than, less than, or equal to?
Equal to.
So you should have written a sentence that said experimental is equal to theoretical, or you could have had it the other way around. Same thing. Questions on that? When you compare something, you need a greater than, less than, or equal to sign.
I put Y like that because
Yep.
I just put.
Okay, so then D says compare the experimental probability that you found in part B to its theoretical. So we found the experimental to be 88%. So then, in theory, how many options on a dice do you have that are not 6?
5.
Out of,
6.
out of 6.
which is the same as?
8300. It's 83%.
Because that's how many that are not 6. So you would get 83%. So this time we would say what? Experimental is? Experimental is greater than our theoretical. Right? Because 88 is greater than 83%. They're close, but 88% is still greater. Okay. So then on number 2, we have, what is the probability that someone in the survey considered reading books or surfing the internet as the best entertainment value? Okay, so we had 2 things this time. We needed reading books and what?
Surfing the internet.
Surfing the internet. So we would take 22 plus 9, and that would give me what?
31.
Miss Aubrey, stop socializing. Okay, 31 out of what?
100.
100. Okay, because if you were to add all of these up, you would get 100%. Okay, so it's 31 out of 100. 31 is prime, so that cannot be reduced. And it only asked it as a fraction, so that is all you have to do for A.
I just figured I'd be safe and just make it.
That's A-okay with me. B, it says, out of 500 people surveyed, how many would you expect to consider reading books or surfing the internet as the best entertainment? So this one wanted you to kind of predict. So this was out of 100 people, so 31 out of 100. What do you have to multiply to get 500 on bottom?
5.
So you have to multiply the top by what?
5.
5 times 31 is?
1,500.
It's not 1,000.
Sorry, 155.
155. So we would predict that 155 out of 500 would say the internet, surfing the internet or reading books is the most entertaining. Okay, on C, this time it says out of 300 people surveyed, is it reasonable to expect that 30 considered watching television as the best entertainment value? Why or why not? So looking over here, how many people said that they like to watch TV?
1 person.
1 out of
100.
100. What do we need to multiply the bottom to get 300?
3.
So what do I need to multiply the top by?
3.
1 times 3 is?
3.
So the question is it reasonable to predict that 30 would consider it?
No. It would be
No,
1 times 3 is 3.
because we would only, so I would say no, because we only would guess 3 to answer it that way. Okay, or 1 times 3 is 3, so therefore we wouldn't expect 30 of them. That's too big of a number.
Watching TV is
3. A spinner marked with 4 sections, blue, green, yellow, and red, was spun 100 times. The results are shown in the table. We need to find the experimental probability of landing on green. So Lucas, how many times did I actually land on green?
10 times.
Out of how many times did I spin? 100 times? And how'd you do that, Lucas? Awesome. You just used that knowledge, right? You could have added these up as well and you'd get 100. So 10 out of 100, can we reduce that? To what? 1/10, which is the same as 1/10, which is the same as 10%. Okay, now we have find the experimental probability of landing on red. How many times did I actually land on red?
68.
Out of?
100.
Can I reduce that?
Yes.
By what?
17/25.
You reduced it by 4?
Yeah.
So you get 17 what?
25.
Which is the same as?
68.
Good, which is the same as? I'm running out of room. So I'm going to have to slide down in just a second. Questions on that one? All right, so our last one. We have, if the spinner is spun 50 more times, how many of these times would you expect the pointer to land on blue? So first of all, how many times did we actually land on blue?
14 times.
14 out of
100.
100. What do I have to do to get 50 on bottom?
Divided by 2. Divided by 2.
Okay, so we divided this time because we needed to get a smaller number. 14
7.
divided by 2 is?
7.
Okay, so if the spinner is spun 50 more times, how many of these times would we expect it to land on blue?
7.
Our final answer would be 7.
Oh, I wrote a 7 with a 2.